Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to be talking about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Now, I find the name pretty uncreative, the Great Circle. I mean, I could easily just add the word jerk after it. Anyway, cringy jokes aside, I just don't think this game is going to shape up to be very good, man, and the writing is on the wall, the red flags are here, and let's just go over them. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is already in serious trouble. Snakes. Why'd it have to be snakes? Sorry, I had to. The upcoming Indiana Jones and the Great Circle game from Bethesda is already shaping up to be a massive disaster before it even officially launches. The latest blow to the game's reception comes from discovering that Xbox is not allowing any critics to post reviews or share their thoughts until the game is available to the public through early access on December 5th. This kind of embargo typically spells bad news for launch, as most companies excited to get the hype train started prior to launch have the embargo date well before the release. When the reviews drop simultaneously with early access, that is a major red flag. Microsoft and Bethesda aren't showing a ton of confidence with the game's ability to garner any substantial positive feedback. I've already said it before, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it again in this video. This whole early access shit can fuck right off. It's not early access, it's paying to play the game on time. It's basically pay us extra to play the game on the release date, or wait extra because fuck you. And it's a real shame to watch the entire video game industry just adopt this greedy practice, well at least on the AAA side. Another thing I want to talk about is the fact that the article states that usually when a review embargo is lifted around the time of the early access release, it usually spells disaster. And that is true. I mean, look at Stalker 2, that game had a ton of problems with it. And guess what? That game also had its embargo lifted 2 hours before the release. At least Stalker 2 had the excuse that it was made in a war zone. I mean, what excuse does Indiana Jones have with trillion-dollar Microsoft backing it? This is assuming there are a lot of problems with the game, of course, but when it comes to modern gaming, you have to expect the worst. This approach never inspires any confidence in the fan base. If they can't handle feedback from a trailer, it tells me they don't care about your opinion. As a customer, having an opinion is your right, and them taking that away from you is a massive turnoff. Yeah, and I think a lot of these companies not listening to the consumer or even going against what the consumer wants, I think it's taught a lot of harsh lessons this year. You know, Concord, rest in fucking peace. Soylent Squad, rest in peace. Unknown 9 Awakening, rest in peace. Dustborn, rest in peace. Dragon Age the Veilguard, rest in peace, ain't never coming back. It's never been more clear to everyone that these companies need to start listening to the consumers or else they go out of business. The move has only further fueled even more skepticism leading up to the launch, with many folks now questioning whether the publisher is fully aware of the negative perception being created surrounding the game in certain corners of the gaming community. And that sentiment is only growing as time passes. Yeah, this was a really stupid move because more and more people now are gonna see that they're disabling dislikes and they're gonna think to themselves, okay, well what is it they're trying to hide? Do they have no confidence at all that anyone's gonna think this is good? And I watched the actual trailer where they disabled the dislikes and they showed like 7 seconds of gameplay out of the 2-minute 55-second trailer? The fact that they're not showing much gameplay for this game tells me one of two things. Either the gameplay sucks and they don't want to show it because people are going to say this looks bad, or the game barely has any gameplay and it's like 90% cutscenes, which is a huge problem with modern gaming. And while they disabled dislikes, that's not stopping people in the comments from saying this looks like shit. Now obviously those people could end up being wrong and it might end up being a great game. However, like there's no confidence. When you know you got a banger game on your hands that people are gonna like, you want to show as much gameplay of that shit as possible. You want to get those reviews out early so people can see how great of a game it is. You aren't hiding the dislike button. The reason you're hiding the dislike button is because you know a lot of people aren't going to like the look of this. Friend of the channel Endymion at EndymionYT also weighed in on the dire state of the game's performance before launch. In a tweet, he stated, Game has less than 200 pre-orders from what I'm told from one major retailer in America. Physical, obviously. I know it's on Game Pass, but still, 200 overall is abysmal no matter how you slice it. Yeah, this reminds me of Unknown 9 Awakening. I remember that game had barely any physical pre-order sales, and look what happened to that game. Dead, never coming back. While the game's availability on Game Pass could account for a lower physical pre-order number, a figure as shockingly low as 200 units suggests that the title has completely failed to generate any excitement or confidence among the majority of gamers, even those like myself who prefer owning physical copies. This isn't the first sign that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is struggling to connect with its intended audience. The term modern audience above became synonymous with this game after its initial showcase by Bethesda, signaling another major red flag and attempt to cater to contemporary social trends. For those of you wondering what he's referring to when he says modern audience, he's talking about this clip right here.
We have the opportunity to tell a new Indiana Jones story for a modern gaming audience.
This approach consistently alienates core gamers who value true authenticity and timeless storytelling over heavy-handed attempts to modernize beloved franchises. There are too many red flags in the patterns being displayed along the way here to ignore. To be honest, it's really disheartening because when I first heard of this game, I gotta be honest, as an Indiana Jones fan, okay, at least the original trilogy, I was really looking forward to the potential out of this one. Well, unfortunately for you, this is modern Western AAA gaming. Enjoy. From what's been shown so far, many feel like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle strays too far away from the adventurous spirit that made the franchise iconic, raising questions about whether Bethesda truly understands the appeal of the character. The challenges don't end there. The lack of pre-orders, the embargoed reviews, and the deliberate silencing of negative feedback on the trailer all paint an extremely grim picture for the game's future. A game that reportedly has over 130 gigs worth of install space to account for. And unfortunately, I have some more negative news to add to the pile that this article didn't touch on because this information wasn't public at the time. Here are the PC spec requirements, and surprise surprise, it's not very well optimized by the look of things. The minimum spec requirements are Windows 10 and i7-10700K. That is fucking crazy for a minimum. 16 gigs of RAM, a 2060 Super. I know the 2060 Super is a pretty old card at this point, but that's still crazy for a minimum. I think the minimum for Stalker 2 was like a 1060, and that game was really poorly optimized. For the recommended, it recommends a i7-12700K processor and a RTX 3080 Ti. For Ultra, it recommends a i7-13900K, which isn't even a real CPU. The right one is i9-13900K. And it recommends a 4080. Then when you get into the ray tracing requirements, for minimum, it's a 4070, recommended 4080, and Ultra 4090. And the CPU requirements are the same, and they put the wrong CPU there again for Ultra. So yeah, it looks like it's also going to be very unoptimized on top of all the things that were listed in the article. Anyway, let's finish off the article here. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle should have been a flagship title for Microsoft and Xbox out of Bethesda, especially with a name as legendary as Indiana Jones attached to it. Instead, nope, it's already being written off by many as yet another casualty of the Gamergate war with misguided attempts to pander to audiences who were never invested in the franchise to begin with. Anyway, that's the end of the article. I'm out of time, guys, so I'm gonna be heading out of here. Tell me, what do you guys think of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle? Anyway, peace.